Welcome back, guys. I trust you've been staying safe. Today's true crime story is coming to you from Nigeria in West Africa, where a young man has been unalived at a motor park for preaching the word of God. And guess what? The police are currently suspected of helping his killer. Yeah, that is how crazy this story is. The whole thing started on the 17th of December 2023, where a 30-year-old recently graduated student of the Olabisi Onabanjo University, or shortly put OOU, who is nicknamed Pekulia but goes by the real name Oluwatosin Onadipe, went to a lorry station to go and preach the word of God. Unfortunately, that would be the last sermon that Oluwatosin would preach on this earth. What happened? This is an eyewitness account of what happened when Oluwatosin was preaching on the fateful day of the 17th of December 2023 at the Ago-Iwoye lorry car park, also known as the Chips Park. Now, according to this alleged eyewitness, he indicated that Pekulia, as he is popularly known, got to this station and then started preaching the word of God. Now, in case you are not familiar with this, depending on whichever country you find yourself, this is very common here in Africa. You find people preaching in town all over. Some argue it's a nuisance, some argue it's still good because it brings the word of God closer to us. It's something that is very common, at least I know in Ghana, my country, and in Nigeria as well. I don't know about most of the other African countries. So this is not something that is odd, in case you are not familiar with it based on whichever jurisdiction you find yourself. So this is not something odd. Now, according to this alleged eyewitness, Oluwatosin or Pekulia got to this station and then he started preaching the word of God. After some minutes into the preaching, a man got angry and vehemently insisted that Pekulia should stop preaching the word of God. Pekulia also denied. He insisted it's his work. He has to do this by faith. It's part of him being a Christian. He should spread the word of God. And you find quotations on this in the Bible. So it seemed like something that had to be done. So he was doing it. And you could see his conviction about what he was doing. But this didn't go down well with the man who had insisted he should stop preaching. And it turns out that this man who was insisting he stops preaching is actually a former chairperson of this lorry park. So he's a senior official there, or a former senior official there, but he still seems to have some form of influence at that space. So I'm sure he was expecting that his instructions will be taken and maybe Oluwatosin or Pekulia would have moved to a different location. But if you are also familiar with those who preach the word of God, they would rather do so at a populated location because the idea is to spread the gospel to as many people as you can. So it looks like there was that deadlock between them. Now, according to this eyewitness, at this point, the man was so infuriated by Pekulia's refusal to leave the lorry station and stop the preaching. And before anyone could say jack, this man just grabbed a metal bar and attacked Pekulia with this metal bar, hitting him on the head. Now, this caused a severe injury and he was bleeding. At which point, people started running helter-skelter because they were scared and they didn't know what to do. And some also didn't want to stick around to find out what would happen next and start being involved in a police case. The few who could keep their head and who were concerned enough called the police to intervene. And rightly so, the police came in. So at this point, the expectation would have been that if the police is in, then definitely there's going to be some sanity being installed at this location and the incident is going to be brought to a halt. But some way, somehow, it would later turn out that the arrival of the police even made matters worse for Pekulia. This is because when the police came, they took Pekulia, they saw him, he was kneeling down, still bleeding, so they took him and they put him in their vehicle, And the thinking that people had was that, okay, if the police have come for him and put him in their vehicle, then it's likely the police are taking him to the hospital because it was obvious he needed medical attention. Now, there's no record of Pekulia attacking or retaliating against the man who attacked him with the iron rod. So he took the attack and he just succumbed to the injury by just being on his knees and bleeding. Now, when the police came and they took him in their vehicle, the expectation was that they were taking him to the hospital, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. In actual fact, that was the last time Oluwatosin or Pekulia was seen alive by anyone. Because fast forward, things sort of returned to normal at that station. They were trying to move on with the day, but at the other end, with regards to the family of Pekulia, they were now trying to reach him, but they couldn't reach him. When they call, the phone call goes through, but nobody responds. And now they were frantically trying to find him. So people started reaching out to the ones whom they felt could be in a position to help find Pekulia, because this was very unusual of him. And his younger brother also came in and tried to reach him several times, but still, Pekulia was not picking his calls. His younger brother continued to call him until the 22nd of December 2023, when eventually a man answered the phone. Now, mind you, the incident happened on the 17th of December, and they had been trying to reach Pekulia on his phone up until 22nd of December 2023. So that makes a total of 5 days, and it was on this 5th day that the call was answered by a man whom, per his accent, is suspected to be a Hausa man. Now, according to the family of Pekulia, when this Hausa man picked the call, they decided they had to meet him because it was not usual that a stranger will pick their son's call on his phone. So they met up with him the next day. That was on the 23rd of December. And then this Hausa man claimed that his boys found the phone on the ground at a town called Ode in the state of Ogun, and then they brought the phone to him. According to the family of Pekulia, they are indicating that even before going to meet up with this Hausa man on the 23rd of December 2023, they went to the police station and reported the case. So the police and the family went to see this Hausa man. And according to them, when they saw this Hausa man explained that his boys went to a roadside around Ago-Iwoye and found the phone on their way back. If you don't remember the name Ago-Iwoye, that's the same location or the same town whose lorry park Pekulia had gone to preach the word of God, and the whole incident had played out at. So this Hausa man went on to say that he has been charging the phone, and by the time he received the phone, it was actually off. So he charged it and he turned it on. So I think his expectation was he was waiting to see who will call so that maybe he could play the role of a good Samaritan and help return the phone to its owner. So according to this Hausa man, for him, it seemed more like, oh, his boys had found a phone and he is waiting for someone to call who could help him identify the owner of the phone. But little did he know what the bigger picture was. And it didn't take him long to find out. So when the police were brought in, they then went and had a conversation with this man and the family of Pekulia. But as it will turn out, the police went to the king of this town to also find out what had happened around that spot, because it seems that was pointing to a possibility that that would have been where Pekulia might have been prior to him going missing. So his family was suspecting that no, once his phone was found around that side, it's very likely that he was there or he's still there in one way or the other. Now, when they went to the king confirmed that, yeah, there was an incident and someone unfortunately lost their lives. So, per this, the king also confirmed that, yeah, the person who lost his life is actually buried in a shallow grave just by that highway where the phone was found. Now, this was where the family of Pekulia or Oluwatosin began to shake in their boots, because it looks like their worst fear had come true. Now, the king indicated that he can confirm that there is a shallow grave there. And according to the family of Pekulia, the story seemed more like their son had been found unalived on the 18th of December, and the suspicion was he passed on through a hit-and-run incident. So it was some way. It was a very difficult thing to take, and I'm sure you can imagine. And they went on to engage the police and later found out that this whole incident had actually played out earlier at this car park. And they began to suspect that no, then it may not have been a hit and run. It might actually could be a possible sabotage, and that there could be a deeper meaning or a deeper basis as to what accounted for the loss of Pekulia's life. So they then found this eyewitness, and the eyewitness said that this was what actually played out. It turns out that after Pekulia was attacked with the iron rod and was bleeding, there was a pandemic. The police came, they picked him up, and these same police officers were actually queried, and they were even denying having been there at all and having even seen Pekulia at all. But upon further evidence coming in, they then confessed that yes, they saw him and they came there and they picked him. So the question was, what happened when they picked him? Now, initially, they denied having any knowledge that they had even seen him and any knowledge of how his remains were found in that shallow grave. Now, after they eventually confessed based on the overwhelming evidence of they being there and having come for him, it became apparent that they may know what happened to him, or they may have a hand in his passing, whether it was deliberate or due to their negligence. And a report was made to the higher police authority. And as it stands now, 3 police officers from the Ago-Iwoye police station are currently at the State Criminal Investigation Department on investigations. Because how do we go from someone being assaulted through to the person being picked up by the police, and then all of a sudden the person is found in a shallow grave? It doesn't add up. So investigations are still ongoing. It's an ongoing case, and we are waiting to see what truly happened to Pekulia, aka Oluwatosin Onadipe. And I'm following this story as and when it's available. Trust you me, I'm going to bring you the update. Until then, leave your comments in the comment section. What do you think happened to this young man? Do you think the police are culpable? Do you think they are hiding something? Already it's obvious they tried to hide something and they got caught. But do you think there's more to what they are saying? And what do you think happened? If there is any version of this story or other facts out there, I didn't get, or other information out there I didn't bring in my video, just let me know in the comment section. Then hit the subscribe button, you turn on the post notifications, and hey, please stay safe out there. I'll catch you on the next one.